The meeting room on the alien ship was silent. Only the sound of machines and heavy breathing filled the air. Human leaders sat on one side of the long metal table, the alien queen and her guards on the other. The air felt heavy, like the room itself wanted to crush everyone inside. The alien queen, Zira, was tall and strange. Her armor shined like dark glass, her eyes glowed with sharp light. Everyone feared her, everyone respected her. She had destroyed 3 fleets with her command, and her smile was said to be the last thing many enemies ever saw. Ethan Cross, a young human soldier, sat at the far end of the table. He was not supposed to speak, only to guard the ambassadors, but boredom, nerves, and his own reckless nature pushed him forward. He looked at the queen, her sharp teeth just showing behind her lips, and he made a joke. "Careful, Your Majesty," he said with a half grin. "If you smile too wide, the lights in here may break." The room froze. The humans stared at him in horror. The aliens hissed in rage. Zira's eyes locked onto Ethan, cold and burning at the same time. For a long moment she did not move, then slowly she smiled. It was not the kind of smile Ethan expected. It was sharp, dangerous, full of hunger and power. His skin crawled, his chest tightened, but he refused to look away. Something inside told him that if he showed fear now, he was dead. "You dare speak so boldly," Zira said, her voice like metal scraping stone. Her guard stepped forward, ready to strike, but she raised one hand to stop them. She stood and walked around the table, each step heavy, echoing in the chamber. Ethan forced himself to stand too. The air between them burned like fire. Zira stopped only inches away from him. Then, faster than lightning, her fist shot forward. The punch slammed into Ethan's chest. He flew backward, crashing into the wall with a sound that shook the room. Pain exploded through his ribs, his breath left him. But somehow he stayed conscious. The guards roared with laughter. The humans shouted in panic, but Ethan, coughing and clutching his chest, pushed himself back onto his feet. He grinned through blood on his lips. "That was one hell of a handshake," he said. The alien stopped laughing. Shocked by his defiance, even Zira tilted her head, her glowing eyes narrowing. "You are still standing," she said, almost whispering. "No human should be standing after that." Ethan shrugged weakly, though his chest burned like fire. "Maybe you hit softer than you think." The room exploded with noise. The humans begged for calm. The aliens shouted for his death. But Zira raised her hand again, silencing all. She looked at Ethan for a long, endless moment, and then she laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was sharp, cruel, but also curious. "Interesting," she said. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as I thought." Her eyes studied him like he was a puzzle she wanted to solve. "Send this one to my ship. I will test him further," the human ambassador shouted in protest. "He is only a soldier. You cannot take him." But the queen's voice cut through the room like a blade. "I can and I will," she said. "If humans want peace, this human comes with me." Guards grabbed Ethan. Though gently compared to before, he was dragged from the room, still coughing, still bleeding, but still grinning. His last glance at the humans showed their fear, their anger, and their helplessness. No one could save him. No one could stop her. As the doors closed behind him, Ethan realized something. He had done the stupidest thing in his life. He had flirted with an alien queen, and somehow survived her deadly smile and her deadly punch. But now he was being taken into the heart of her empire, and he had no idea if he would come back alive. The alien ship carried Ethan through the stars. The halls were wide and glowing with strange blue light, walls alive with moving patterns like veins of fire. Every alien guard who passed him looked at him with disgust, some with curiosity, none with respect. To them, he was just a human, a weak creature who dared to joke with their queen. Ethan's ribs still ached from the punch, but his spirit burned hotter than the pain. He kept his back straight, his eyes sharp even as chains clinked at his wrists. The aliens wanted to see fear, they wanted to see him break. But he refused, he thought to himself. If I show weakness now, they will eat me alive. After hours of travel, the ship landed on the Queen's homeworld. Ethan stepped out and gasped. The sky was green and gold, filled with lightning that moved like slow rivers. Towers of black stone reached into the clouds. Sharp as blades, the air felt heavy, thick, as if gravity itself wanted to crush him. He was taken to the Queen's palace, a fortress of glass and steel that looked alive. Strange animals crawled along the walls, glowing eyes watching him. Inside, the throne room stretched so high he could barely see the ceiling. Every alien court member turned to watch him. their faces hard and unreadable. Queen Zira sat on her throne, tall and silent, her eyes locked on Ethan as the guards pushed him forward. For a moment, no one spoke, the silence so deep that Ethan's heartbeat echoed in his ears. Finally, Zira's lips curved into that same dangerous smile. "You are still alive," she said, her voice smooth but sharp. "Most humans would have begged for mercy, yet you stand before me without shaking." Ethan forced a grin, though sweat dripped down his back. "Maybe I just don't know when to be afraid." A hiss of laughter spread through the court, but it was not kind. One alien warrior stepped forward, huge and armored. "This human is nothing." "Let me break him," he growled. Zira raised her hand, and the warrior froze. "No," she said. "This one is mine to test." She stood and walked toward Ethan, her long steps echoing. "You thought my punch was a game, but here, every moment is a trial." She leaned close, her glowing eyes inches from his. "Tell me, human, do you think you are a prisoner here or something more?" Ethan swallowed, his heart hammering. He could feel the weight of every alien eye, waiting for his answer. Finally, he smirked, his voice rough but steady. "Depends," he said. "Do I get breakfast in bed?" The court exploded in gasps and angry shouts. Guards reached for their weapons, but Zira lifted her hand again, smiling wider now. Her laugh rolled through the hall like thunder. "You are bold, dangerously bold," she said. "Very well. You will not rot in a cell instead. You will be tested." Ethan frowned. "Tested how?" Zira's smile sharpened. "In combat, in puzzles, in trials of the mind, you will face warriors, scholars, and beasts. If you survive, you may sit at my side. If you fail, you will die in front of all." The court cheered at her words, voices rising like a storm. Ethan stood tall. Though his stomach twisted, he had no weapons. No training for alien games, no friends here. But backing down was not an option, not now, not ever, that night. He was locked in a chamber of black stone. The walls glowed with strange symbols he could not read. A single guard brought him food, some kind of glowing fruit that tasted like fire and ash. Ethan lay awake on the hard bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought of Earth, of his people, of the human fleet waiting in fear. What have I gotten myself into? He wondered, prisoner or throne, dead man or legend? The next morning, horns echoed through the palace. Guards dragged Ethan into a massive arena, filled with thousands of aliens. The crowd roared, shaking the walls. In the center stood a massive beast. 4 legs, 2 tails, jaws filled with razor teeth. The ground cracked as it stomped, fire dripping from its mouth. Zira's voice rang across the arena. "Human, show us if your courage is real, or just foolish words." The gates slammed shut behind him, leaving Ethan alone with the monster. He had no sword, no shield, only his bare hands and his stubborn will. The beast roared, charging at him with deadly speed. Ethan's heart pounded. Fear screamed in his head, but he refused to run. He clenched his fists, teeth bared, whispering to himself, "Prisoner throne, Ethan, let's find out." The beast circled Ethan in the arena, its tail snapping like whips, its jaws dripping fire. The crowd shouted for blood, aliens pounding their fists against stone, their voices shaking the walls. Ethan's chest rose and fell fast, but he kept his feet firm. His eyes fixed. Running meant death. Freezing meant death. Only moving forward gave him a chance. When the beast charged again, Ethan rolled under its body, the heat of its belly burning his skin. He grabbed a fallen spear from the ground, broken but sharp enough to stab. The beast spun, tails lashing. One tail slammed into his side, throwing him across the sand. Pain shot through his ribs, but he forced himself up, blood dripping from his mouth. The alien court laughed and roared, expecting him to fall. But Ethan steadied the broken spear and smirked. "Sorry, ugly," he muttered. "I've had worse dates." Then he ran forward, dodging fire, and jammed the spear into the beast's eye. The creature screamed, thrashing, blood like molten lava pouring out. It collapsed with a final roar, shaking the arena floor. The crowd went silent for a moment, then erupted in wild chaos. Some shouted for his death, others for his victory. Queen Zira stood from her throne above, her eyes glowing brighter. She raised her hand, and the crowd instantly silenced. "Impressive," she said, her voice echoing through the arena. "This human bleeds but does not break. He amuses me still." Ethan staggered, chest burning, but he grinned anyway. "I aim to please," he said, coughing blood. The crowd gasped at his boldness. Zira tilted her head, studying him like a weapon she was not sure how to use. Later, back in his chamber, Ethan lay on the stone bed, every bone aching. That was when a sound hissed through the walls, his communicator, hidden in his belt. He pulled it out with shaking hands, pressing it close to his ear. The voice on the other side made his heart race. "Ethan, this is Commander Hale," the voice whispered. "We're close. The human fleet is coming to get you out." "Hold on," Ethan froze, his stomach twisting. "A rescue mission here in the Queen City. It would spark war." He whispered back, "No, you don't understand. If you attack, millions will die. Stop this mission." But the voice was cold, firm. "We don't leave our own behind. Prepare yourself, soldier. You're coming home." The communicator went silent, leaving Ethan alone with dread. Hours later, Zyra entered his chamber, her steps calm and heavy. "You fought well today," she said, her eyes studying every wound on his body. "But I wonder, was it courage or just desperation?" Ethan forced a tired grin. "Maybe both." Zyra leaned closer, her voice lower. "Tell me, human, why do your people circle my skies ready to strike?" Ethan's heart dropped. You know?" She nodded slowly, her sharp smile cutting through him. "I know everything that moves above my world," she said. "And I know your people do not trust me. Perhaps they do not even trust you." Her words stabbed deeper than her punch ever could. Ethan clenched his fists, torn between loyalty and truth. "If they attack," Zyra continued, "my armies will burn them from the sky, but if you stop them, perhaps we can avoid war." Ethan's breath caught, the weight of her words pressing on him. He realized the Queen was not his enemy alone. She was also his only chance to stop disaster. That night, the sky above the alien capital burned with light. Human ships broke through the atmosphere, their weapons glowing. Sirens screamed across the city, alien soldiers rushing into the streets. The first shots thundered, shaking the palace walls. Ethan stood at the window of his chamber, watching the chaos. His heart pounded, torn in two. On one side, his people, his duty, his home. On the other, the Queen, her world, her strange interest in him. The door slammed open, guards dragging him out. Zyra stood in the hall, her armor glowing with energy. Her eyes locked on his, sharp and burning. "Choose, human," she said, her voice like thunder. "Stand with your people and bring war, or stand with me and end it." The palace shook again as fire rained from the skies. Ethan's chest tightened, sweat dripping down his face. He was caught between two worlds, two armies, two futures, and he knew that whatever he chose now would change the galaxy forever. The alien capital shook as explosions lit the sky. Human ships clashed with alien defenses, fire streaking across the heavens like falling stars. Every blast echoed through the palace walls. Each one closer than the last, Ethan stood frozen in the hall, his body torn between two loyalties. Zyra's soldiers rushed past him, their armor shining with dark light, their weapons humming with energy. The palace itself seemed alive, walls glowing with red veins as if the city itself prepared for war. The Queen stood tall, her cloak flowing like fire, her voice calm though the world screamed outside. "Your people attack us," she said, her eyes locked on Ethan. "Do they fight for you, or do they fight to bury you?" Ethan's heart pounded, his ribs still sore from the arena. He thought of Commander Hale's voice on the communicator, the cold promise of rescue. But rescue for him meant death for millions, human and alien alike. He took a deep breath, and for the first time he spoke without a joke. "I don't want this war," he said, his voice shaking but strong. Zyra tilted her head, studying him like a weapon she had not yet chosen to use. "Then prove it," she said, pointing to the burning city beyond the windows. "Save them, save us, or stand aside and let blood drown your honor." The guards dragged him into the streets, the air thick with smoke and fire. Human dropships landed hard, soldiers pouring out with guns raised, aliens charged to meet them, blades and blasters flashing in the night. Screams filled the air as buildings cracked and fell. Ethan broke free from the guards, running toward the battlefield. He saw a group of alien children trapped under rubble. Crying as flames closed in without thinking, he threw himself forward, pulling stones with bloody hands. A soldier shouted behind him, "Ethan, over here!" He turned, seeing a squad of humans waving for him to join them. But if he left now, the children would die. His chest twisted, but he made his choice. "Hold on. I've got you," he whispered, lifting the smallest child into his arms. Blaster fire tore past him, striking the walls. One human soldier lowered his rifle, his face filled with disbelief. "Why are you helping them?" "They're the enemy," Ethan shouted back. "They're kids. If you shoot, you're no better than monsters." The human squad hesitated, their guns shaking. The aliens around Ethan stared in shock as he shielded the children with his own body. Even the alien guards lowered their blades for a moment. Unsure, above them, the sky roared as ships burned. Suddenly, a shadow dropped from the flames. Queen Zira herself landed in the street. Her armor glowing, her blade cutting through fire. She struck down a human drone that aimed for Ethan's back, saving him. The crowd gasped, seeing the queen and the human fighting side by side. "You risk your life for my people," Zira said, standing close to him. "And yet your people call you brother." Ethan, panting, set the children behind her. "Maybe I don't care whose people they are. They're just people." The words struck like thunder in the silence that followed. For the first time, alien warriors lowered their weapons willingly. Even human soldiers froze, confused by what they saw. But the peace lasted only a breath. Explosions ripped the ground apart, throwing soldiers and children into the air. Ethan grabbed one child. Rolling across the rubble, Zira caught another, holding it close against her armor. The rest of the palace wall collapsed, fire swallowing half the street. Ethan coughed, ash burning his lungs. He looked at Zira, her face hard but her eyes softer than before. You saved me," he whispered. Zira smirked faintly. "Or perhaps I saved myself. You are too reckless to die yet." Together, they dragged the survivors out of the flames. Soldiers on both sides watched with uncertain eyes. No one fired, no one spoke. The battlefield paused for one fragile moment. War itself seemed to stop. Then a horn blared across the alien city. An order shouted through both fleets, louder than the fires. Ethan heard the human command through his earpiece. "All units, target the palace, finish the queen." His stomach dropped. He looked at Zira, who already knew what was coming. The sky above turned red as human bombers dived. Her voice cut through the chaos, sharp and clear. "You are now hated by your own kind, human," she said. "And yet my people see you as something more, perhaps a fool. Perhaps a leader." Ethan's chest ached, his heart torn. He stood in the ashes of two armies, his name cursed by humans, whispered by aliens. The ground shook again as the first bombs fell. Ethan clenched his fists, his voice low but firm. "This war ends here, one way or another." And as the fire rained down, he knew his choice would decide not just his life but the fate of two worlds. The bombing stopped, but the city still burned. Smoke rose in black rivers and the smell of ash covered every street. Bodies lay across the ruins, both human and alien. Warriors and innocents alike. Ethan stood in the middle of it all. His hands bloody, his heart heavier than ever. Queen Zira walked beside him. Her armor cracked, her cloak torn by fire. Yet her steps were steady, her voice still sharp as iron. "You risked your life to save my children," she said. "And for that I will not kill you." Her court gathered around, eyes filled with confusion, anger, and respect. Many shouted for his death, calling him a traitor and a spy. But Zira raised her hand, silencing them all. "This human will not be executed," she declared. "He will be tested." The word echoed through the palace, sending a wave of whispers. Every alien knew what that meant, the trial of kings. A test that decided who was worthy to lead. It was not meant for humans. It was not meant for outsiders. But Zira had made her choice. Ethan looked at her, his body still aching, his chest tight. "Tested?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Zira's smile was thin, dangerous. "If you survive, your people may live. If you fail, they will be ashes in the stars." She leaned close, her whisper sharp. "And perhaps you will learn who you truly are." The next day the arena was filled again, but this time it was no beast, no simple fight. The trial of kings had three parts: the trial of strength, the trial of wisdom, and the trial of spirit. Ethan would face them all. Under the eyes of the entire alien empire, the first gate opened, and Ethan stepped into a chamber of stone. 10 alien champions stood in a circle, weapons shining, armor thick. They were stronger, faster, trained from birth to kill. Ethan had nothing but his fists and a short blade thrown at his feet. The champions attacked one after another, their blows like thunder. Ethan dodged, rolled, swung wildly, his body already breaking. He used speed, tricks, and sheer stubborn will to stay alive. He tripped one warrior into another, used rubble as cover, even threw sand into eyes. Minutes felt like hours, his arms heavy, his ribs screaming. But when the last champion fell unconscious, the crowd gasped. Blood ran from Ethan's nose. His hands trembled, but he was still standing. Zira's lips curved into that dangerous smile. The human passes the first trial, she said. The second gate opened. Leading into a dark hall filled with glowing stones, a voice spoke from the walls. Cold and ancient, choose the path of truth, or be lost forever. The stones shifted. The walls moved, a maze alive with illusions. Ethan walked forward, every turn twisting his mind. He saw visions of Earth, his family, his friends. He saw Commander Hale's face shouting, "Kill the Queen! Save humanity!" He saw Zira's face too, whispering, "Join me, and rule by my side." His heart pulled in two directions. His mind breaking under the weight, he fell to his knees, whispering, "I don't want war, I don't want thrones. I just want peace." At that moment, the illusions cracked like glass, the maze walls collapsing, the path cleared before him, leading him into the light. The crowd roared again, half in anger, half in awe. No human had ever passed the trial of wisdom. Zira's eyes glowed brighter, her smile unreadable. "The human passes the second trial," she said. The third gate opened, the final test. Ethan stepped into a chamber of fire, where the air itself seemed alive. A great crystal floated in the center. Glowing red, the voice echoed again, "Prove your spirit, or be consumed." Flames wrapped around him, cutting his skin, burning his lungs. Vision struck harder now, his mother crying, his friends dying, the Queen offering her hand. He screamed, falling to his knees, but deep inside a spark refused to die. He thought of the children he saved, the soldiers who hesitated to kill. He thought of both worlds, both species, and the chance for something more. He stood, fire tearing at his body, his voice raw but strong. "I am human, I am weak, but I will not give up." Never. The flames exploded, then vanished, leaving the chamber silent. The crystal shattered and the trial ended. Ethan collapsed, barely breathing, his body broken but alive. The crowd was silent, staring at him with wide eyes. Zira stepped forward. Her cloak brushing the sand, she looked down at him, her smile sharp but softer than before. "The human has passed all three trials," she declared. "He has proven strength, wisdom, and spirit. He is worthy." The court erupted in chaos, some bowing, some shouting. Ethan, coughing blood, whispered, "Worthy for what?" Zira's eyes locked onto his, glowing brighter than ever. "For me," she said. "And for the throne?" Ethan's heart froze. He had survived the trials, but now he realized the truth. This was not only about peace or survival. This was about becoming the Queen's consort, her chosen king. The arena was silent. The fire from the shattered crystal still glowed faintly, painting the walls red. Ethan lay on the ground, every breath heavy, every muscle shaking. Above him, Queen Zira stood tall, her voice echoing through the hall. "The human has passed," she declared. "He is no longer prisoner, no longer toy, he is a choice." The crowd erupted with gasps and shouts. Some bowed, some cursed, some demanded his death. Ethan forced himself to his feet, his ribs aching with every step. He looked at Zira, his throat dry. "What choice?" he asked. Her smile curved, sharp as always, but her eyes glowed with something deeper. "Marriage," she said. "If you take my hand, you will share my throne, you will bind our species, you will end this war." Her words cut through the hall like a blade. The court froze, the world seemed to hold its breath. Ethan's stomach twisted, his heart pounding like a drum. Marriage. With the Queen who had punched him into a wall. With the woman who could kill him with a single glance. He looked around. Alien generals stared at him with hatred. Human faces appeared in his mind, voices shouting betrayal. If he said yes, his people would call him traitor. If he said no, he would die here. Zira stepped closer, her eyes burning into his. "You have courage, human. But courage without choice is nothing. Choose, and let the galaxy see where you stand." Her hand hovered in the air between them, waiting. Ethan's hand shook, not from fear, but from the storm inside him. He thought of Earth, his people, the human fleet waiting above. He thought of the children he had saved, the fire in Zira's eyes when she fought beside him. He thought of the future, of war that would never end unless something changed. But before he could speak, a voice hissed in his ear. The communicator hidden in his belt crackled to life. "Ethan, this is Commander Hale," the cold voice whispered. "You know what you must do. Kill her. Cut her throat while she stands unguarded, and we will strike. Humanity will win." Ethan's blood turned to ice. He glanced at Zira, so close now, her hand still waiting, her guards watching from a distance. If he drew a blade, if he struck now, he could end her life. But he remembered the civilians, the children, The moment when human and alien soldiers both lowered their weapons because of him. His fingers brushed the small dagger at his side. The court watched silent, waiting for him to move. Would he take her hand? Or would he take her life? Even Zyra's eyes narrowed, sensing the storm inside him. "Do it," Hale whispered, his voice sharp as a knife. "Prove your loyalty. Prove you are still human." Ethan's grip tightened, sweat dripping from his brow. But another voice echoed in his mind, Zyra's voice in the arena, saying, "Perhaps you are more dangerous than you know." Ethan pulled the blade free. The court gasped. Zyra did not flinch. Her eyes locked on his, her smile small but certain. She whispered, so low only he could hear, "Your people will never forgive you if you take my hand, and mine will never forgive me if I let you live." His chest felt like it would break. Was there truly no path that avoided blood? He lifted the blade high, the crowd screaming in one voice. Some shouted, "Kill." Others shouted, "Take her hand." Ethan's heart thundered, his body shaking. He made his choice, slamming the blade into the ground instead of her chest. The sound rang through the arena, sharp and final. "No," he said, his voice breaking. "I will not kill you, and I will not be your puppet either." The court roared in outrage, soldiers drawing weapons, generals shouting for his death, but Zyra raised her hand. Silencing them all, her smile returned, sharp but strangely soft. "You are a fool, human, but a brave fool," she said. "Perhaps that is what makes you dangerous." She lowered her hand, but her eyes still burned with fire. "You refuse my throne, yet you refuse to betray me. You walk between love and war, and that path may destroy you." Ethan's chest heaved, his hands trembling, but he stood tall. "I'm not here for thrones," he said. "I'm here to stop the war." The words echoed through the arena. Some aliens spat in anger. Others looked at him with something close to respect. The choice had been made, the line had been drawn. Ethan was now trapped between two worlds. Loved by neither, trusted by none. Zyra turned, her cloak sweeping behind her. "Then so be it," she said, her voice echoing like thunder. "If you will not rule beside me, then you will fight beside me." She looked back once, her eyes glowing with a mix of challenge and curiosity. "Prove to me, human, that your dream of peace is worth the blood it will cost," the crowd shouted. The city shook. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Ethan stood in the ruins of the trial, torn between duty, desire, and survival. And he knew that the greatest battle was yet to come, not against beasts or soldiers, but against fate itself. The galaxy burned, human fleets and alien armadas gathered across the stars, each side ready to erase the other. The war drums echoed from one world to the next. And in the middle of it all stood Ethan Cross, the human who dared flirt with a queen and survive her punch. He walked beside Queen Zyra through the war council chamber. Her generals bowed with clenched fists, their eyes filled with suspicion and hate. They whispered that he was a spy, a traitor, a fool. But Zyra silenced them with a single glare. "This human stands with me," she declared, her voice sharp as thunder. "He has refused my throne, refused my death, and yet he still walks at my side." Her words shook the room, but still, the air felt heavy with doubt. Ethan stood tall, his chest tight, his mind racing. He remembered Hale's voice, cold and commanding. He remembered the communicator hidden in his belt, the promise of war without end. He remembered the children in the ruins, the look in Zyra's eyes when she saved him, and he made his choice. This war had to end tonight, no matter the cost. When the fleets met above the alien capital, the stars vanished behind fire, ships locked in orbit, weapons charged, engines roaring. One signal and the galaxy would drown in blood. Ethan stood on the balcony with Zyra, watching the sky burn. "This is madness," he whispered. "Your people want me dead, my people want you dead. And all of them want to fight until nothing is left." Zyra's eyes glowed, her smile thin but dangerous. "Then end it, human. If you are as bold as you claim, show them another path." Ethan's hands shook, but his voice grew strong. "I will," he said. "But you must trust me." Zyra tilted her head, studying him like a puzzle she still could not solve. At last she nodded. Ethan walked into the great hall where the galaxy's leaders watched through holoscreens. Human commanders, alien generals, entire fleets waiting for the signal to fire. He stood in the center, bruised, bloody, but unbroken, and he raised his voice so all could hear. "I am Ethan Cross, soldier of Earth, prisoner of the Queen, survivor of her trials," he shouted. "I fought beasts, I bled in the sand, I carried children from fire. I have seen humans and aliens both laugh, both cry, both die. And I tell you this, war will not save us. It will only bury us. The generals jeered, commanders sneered, voices rose in rage, but Ethan slammed his fist against the table. You call me traitor? Maybe I am, but I am a traitor to war. You call me fool? Maybe I am. But I am a fool who still stands while you hide behind fleets. The room fell quiet, his words like fire in the cold air. Zyra stepped forward beside him, her voice cutting through the silence. This human fought me, mocked me, defied me. And still I call him dangerous, not because of his blade, but because of his spirit. She looked at the commanders, her eyes sharp as knives. If you kill him, you kill your chance at peace. If you follow him, you follow a path neither human nor alien, but something new. Her voice rang across the hall, filling every ship, every ear above the planet. Weapons hummed, fingers on triggers trembled. For one long, endless moment, the galaxy held its breath. Ethan stood tall, his chest burning, his voice steady. Choose, he said. Fight until the stars go dark, or fight beside me for something greater. The first ships lowered their weapons. Not all, not many, but enough to shake the balance. Others followed one by one, until silence filled the void where war should have been. The fleets pulled back, the fire in the sky slowly fading. Ethan collapsed to his knees, his body too weak to hold the weight. But Zyra caught him before he fell, her arm strong around his shoulders. You fool, she whispered, her smile sharp but soft. You may have saved them all, and in doing so, doomed yourself, he coughed, grinning weakly through the pain. Story of my life, he said. The queen laughed, her voice dark but warm. Then perhaps your life is worth more than you know. The war did not end forever. Peace was fragile, thin as glass. But for the first time in generations, the guns fell silent, and across the galaxy, stories spread of the reckless human who dared to joke with a queen, the human who refused thrones and swords yet still bent empires with his spirit. In the halls of the palace, Ethan stood at Zyra's side, not as her husband, not as her prisoner, but as something far more dangerous. A friend, a rival, a bridge between two worlds. And though the galaxy whispered his name with awe and fear, Ethan only smiled because deep down he knew one truth. He had not just survived the queen's deadly smile or her deadly punch. He had changed the fate of two civilizations with nothing more than stubborn courage. And his story was only the beginning.